Hey, I'm Scotty and thanks for joining me in this tutorial where I'm going to show you how to sketch this London building here in 2-point perspective. I asked my Patreon members what they thought the most difficult thing about sketching this reference right here would be, and most people said the details. How are we going to include all these details in this sketch? And the second thing was perspective. Maybe they're linked. So they're the topics that I'm going to focus on today and really make sure that any level can complete this sketch, even if it looks quite daunting with all those details. Okay, the first thing we need to do is have a structure for this sketch. So I like to find the total height of the building so it can fit on the page. So I'm going to put a dot here for the lowest point, right in the middle, there, and then another dot for the total height. So right in the middle of the top, so not too close to the top. And then we've got that size of the building. And we can actually divide this building up into 4 sections. So let's put it into half, and put a dot there, and then half again. And in this section, half again there. And then we've got the total height, and we know it can fit in the page. We also need the width. And the width here is about one of those heights there. See, and we can come down. But it's slightly up from this point because we want a subtle angle there. And a little bit further out. So it's slightly longer than this height and angled up there. And same on this side. We'll come down to about there, slightly out and up. And there we have the width of the building. The building comes to here, has a nice angle. So if we come to about halfway between these 2 points, maybe slightly lower, but then across, and directly above this point is a dot there. So come across each side. And we're just getting these roughly in position so we know it fits in the page, but we can go outside those dots as we're sketching. If you wanted to know where the eye line is, you can draw a little line here. It's almost just a bit above these dots here. So that's where the eye line is there on the page. And that's because the person who was taking it was sitting or kneeling. It's quite low, and all the lines here, the horizontal lines, will be very close to being horizontal. But then as we draw the lines going up, they'll be more and more angled up until that point. Okay, now we've got some rough guides to help us to sketch. Let's draw the main shapes. So we'll start at the top here. We've got this little section here. Outline this here, this little mini bell tower. And that was about half of that distance. So now we have to draw the next half, and we've got this sort of like a bell shape going down. Just redraw the line if it's a bit off. See that ellipse there? It's quite circular compared to some of the ellipse shapes down here. Okay, we've got the basic outline there. Now we're going to draw these lines here. And as we're going, we're adding a little bit of interest, a little bit of the detail, but it's basically just connecting that shape. Antennas and details. And it's all in one line and very, very messy. On this side we come down, we're aiming towards that dot there. Go up, very loose shapes, and then aiming down this way. But as we draw the vertical lines, we've got to keep them perfectly vertical so they follow the side of the page. Get down like that, and then okay, so we've got the 2 angles there for the top. Now we can draw the 2 sides, and we're aiming towards here, keeping it vertical now because we're in 2-point perspective. The vertical lines are all perfectly vertical. It comes to about halfway between those 2 dots there. So if you look at those 2 dots, I'll come out there. And we want a nice angle here, so it's a nice feature to the side here. Creates a nice silhouette to the building. And then we come down this way, and also I'm adding character and all the way down. And then just along the bottom here to finish off that shape. And we can add more gaps here because there are people's legs that we'll be drawing in. And then it's angling back this way like that, and we've also got the sidewalk, the gutter there that comes around there too, like that. So it's a lot flatter down here close to that eye line, but very angled up here. Okay, now we want to divide this section up from the green section and to that red section. So we still need a bit of an angle because it's further away from the eye line, so but not as angled as this. So we don't want the same angle there, we want in the middle somewhere. So it comes up from that point to just above that dot there, and we can put 2 dots either side, the width of this tower up there, and that would be that section there, and then down this way. So trying to divide the whole building up here and not get worried, not get too stuck on the details. So across here like this, get that width of that green section, drops down a bit there. And we can add a few more of these blinds that come down like that. And this one here. There we go. So we've got those 3 blinds. Now, how's your sketch going? Is it fitting on the page nicely? Have you got those sections? Because now we can go into details. All the details that can be overwhelming, but when you've got this structure, it's a lot easier. So start at the top here, and we're not going to draw every bit correctly. We're just going to summarize where the windows go, and some of it will be done with the watercolor. So this is going to be a very loose sketch without a lot of perfection and detail in it. So we've got the tower bits there. Then we continue this circle around, this ellipse around, I should say. Very messy and wobbly. And we come down here, just below this section here, we've got to create another one. Then as they go down, these ellipses are going to be more and more flatter. Okay, we've got that section here, and this detail here, I'm not worried about the exactness of what's going on there, just put some detail there. And then across here, we're still following that angle, like that. We're putting a white section there. And then on this section here, we're coming across, and then we're adding another section across like this. With that thickness there. Okay. And now we've got to put these 3 windows on the side, just to divide up the building. So if we come down a little bit here, let's draw another half ellipse like that. And then we'll draw the bottom section here. Now this ellipse here is a lot flatter because it's close to the eye line. So draw one there like that. And now we've got 3 sections for those windows. So let's add this top window here. And I'm not going to draw those white sections too detailed there. So the window there, and then this window here, again, the idea is that it sort of curves up like that. So there's a rectangular window here. And then this section here is more of a pointy roof section. And I'm doing it all in one line. It looks a lot better than trying to draw each little section if you just do it in one line like that. Okay, we've just added a whole lot of detail there. Okay, now this next section, making sure as we're drawing these details that we have those lines fanning up to this point. So I'm going to draw a line like this, and then we draw a rectangular line, and the vertical lines are vertical, but these angled lines follow the angle. And you don't even have to add in the exact amount of windows here. Just 2 will do there. And then a window below, so it has to be in line with this window. So draw a line there, and then we've got that height. So true vertical, perfectly vertical lines like that, and then but then the top edge would be angling like all the other angles. It's following that same structure, that pointy roof. And then this is more like this angle here because it's closer to the eye line down there. And then we've got this crazy section here. So we just draw an outline of the whole section. Just some of the impression of what's there. So that's so simple. And you can add some of those lines if you like, but I'm not even counting. There's only 2, there's actually 3 on the reference. Now the other side, we do that same line, okay, and then still horizontal lines, sorry, vertical lines, perfectly vertical, but then the horizontal lines are following that shape. And then here, we've got the bottom of that window there and go across. But I'm trying to look at that line and this line, and having a line that's in the middle, angled in between the 2. Just roughing out those shapes. So I'm hoping that this is a lot easier, this loose style. You don't have to get overwhelmed by all this detail, you're just roughing in an impression. It will look better with watercolor in the end. And then across here we even have lines like this. Divide that up a bit more. And then we're getting down towards this green section here with the people. So we've got this section here, so let's draw some vertical lines just like this on either side. And then some random outlines for the plants here. Definitely not getting into details of flowers and that sort of thing. That we can hint at what's going on there. There's a square there. Okay, so the heads, they come up to nearly the top of the awnings that come down there. And they come down to the footpath here, so about between those 2. So when I do people at this size, we definitely don't draw the details like the face and that sort of thing. We just keep it to 3 simple shapes. So we draw the head, so this gentleman here, draw the outline of his head, and then we draw his top half of his body like this. And I generally try to taper it down from thin shoulders to the waist being the widest point, like that. And then we come down, taper to his shoes here. That's a really easy way to draw people. A circle, then the shoulders, that, and then tapering to the feet there. It's more of an icon or a symbol of a person, really. As we know, the eye line is at waist level, so all the waist should line up. And we've got people over here. If we put too much detail and effort into these people, then they'll stand out in a bad way. Come across this side, there's a person here. Now if the head's a bit lower, it just really matters that that waist is in line. Now we can add some of that detail back behind the people. There's probably another person there. And then some of the windows details, so we want to get those shapes. And now at the eye line, all the horizontal lines are going to be horizontal now. Horizontal here. There's the final line work before you do watercolor. It's what makes a big difference in this is just having set it out properly, knowing the angles of the top lines, and then all the details fit within those main shapes. So that's what really helps. And even if these details are very loose and messy, because they're in the main shapes, they can still look right and correct. We don't have to spend too much time on them. So I have my round 10 brush, and we're going to do a quick first coat over the top. And the sky here can be cerulean blue. So that's like a light blue. That looks great for skies. So we're going to put that along the top here, and a nice broad stroke. And we're not worried about overlapping lines. I'm taking the actual color out of the brush, and I'm just pulling down the color from that top stroke down there. And then we've got the main red of the building. So what I like to do here is I'm going to use burnt sienna. That's a very nice orangey reddy color. There, it's starting to get some saturation. And then we'll also use alizarin crimson. You could use rose as well. It's just a darker rose color, really. So with the lighting, we're going to have the lighting come from the left. Someone mentioned how we're going to do the shadows. So I'm going to make it that the light's coming from the left and hitting that side of the building and leaving this side in shadow. And that makes it a lot easier when you saw that basic prism that I put on, that to make this look more three-dimensional, we have to show that by the lighting. So we're going to leave this side lighter color and come across here with darker color, and then add a shadow on this side. We have our color, and what we're doing is we're just adding a light color across the top here. It's totally fine here if you're going over the lines. We're just adding sections, and make sure there's little white gaps there. They're not even perfect, they're just different shapes coming down like this. It's very messy in there. That's okay. And then we're coming across the top here. I'm not following exactly how many they have on the reference. So I'm going to leave those white areas. Okay, then as we go across, we can add more and more red into it. So alizarin crimson I've got here. I'm going to make it darker on this side as we go across. And even up here, see, it's all white up there, but it's a bit red. That. It's a very simple, quick sketch. So as we're going across, it looks a lot darker and more saturated. And then we move on to the green section. So I've got some sap green, and we can add a little bit of turquoise into the sap green. And then do the same thing, starting on this side, and just going across. It's quite light on that side. And then we can add even more. We've got a viridian green. It's just coming across there like that. Yes, and this one's green there. I'm just blocking in where the green is, the light green. Okay, and see how I've left the white bits there. Okay, and then the viridian green, that's a stronger, bluer green. So I've got viridian green, maybe a little bit of turquoise in it, and stretch that down. And that'll be these planter boxes here, and also the plants here. So leave a little bit of white there on the left side where the light will be hitting those plants. Okay, just let that dry because I didn't want any of the new colors to mix in the wrong spot. So now I've got Payne's grey, and we'll do that top roof there. And I'm leaving a little bit more white on the left hand side because I imagine that's where the light of the sun will be hitting off the edge. The windows here, they're a bit darker. Let's do those in. Once again, I'm not trying to get it right in the perfect spot. And some of these windows actually have a little bit of blue in them, so I'll mix a bit of that blue from the sky we already had. And then down here, we've got these windows here, so I'll add a bit more of that Payne's grey. I know a lot of these people are wearing black, so add more Payne's grey. If we get some yellow here, yellow ochre, there's a door here that's yellow in it. Try not to touch the other colours. And it might be okay if some of it touches the Payne's grey there, because it's kind of going into the lighting in the background. And we can even use that red for the skin tone. Even though I know it's not red, I think that'll help sort of pop out where the skin is. Just that light Payne's grey wash, and we're going to go across the bottom here, just like that. So now we can go into shadows. So I'll have Purple Lake here, and that'll be a light shadow. And then the darker shadow areas I'm going to use ultramarine, so I'll put ultramarine over here. So I haven't used ultramarine so far. Okay, so because the light's coming from here, the lighter shadow will be at the top, so use Purple Lake first, or any purpley colour that you have. You can mix rose with ultramarine to get that colour. And then we're just going on the right hand side of objects mostly to give it that shadow around there. So the bottom of that is a shadow. And we're just going across all this white and red here. And even in the windows, the tops of the windows here, be a shadow in that corner. And same in these windows here. There's shadow maybe under those bits. Just little bits here and there. And then let's start off with the ultramarine at the bottom. And we'll make our way back up to the purple shadows. So this is all really dark shadows underneath these awnings there. And also where the people are, like just little shadows like that. And then we can make our way up and just join some of that darker purple. And see how simple this is. Just layering on those watercolors. Got the block sections there. See, it's not even very symmetrical. These shapes aren't really fitting in. But you get the idea, the impression of the white sections and then the brick section. And we have a bit more lighting than this reference does. We've got a light side and a dark side, and really darker in here underneath the awnings and around the people. If you want, you can add ultramarine. There might be someone with a blue clothing there. Alright, once again, I'm going to let that dry completely before we add some highlights. Okay, I've got my Posca pen, PC1M, and let's add some highlights. So around the people, on top of their heads, if you've got some of the shadow going on the head when they shouldn't be, that helps make them stand out a bit more if we add a highlight on the top. And on the bush here, there's lots of white flowers, so let's add a few dots there too. And in here there'll be some reflections, so and then on the edges of things, so on these planter boxes there might be a little bit more light on the top, there on the edge, and then on the windows too. Here we could add a bit of white to that text. So that's my final sketch of this London building in 2-point perspective. So it's a very quick sketch, loose line work and very loose watercolors on top. I hope you enjoyed that style because we didn't follow all the details, but we simplified a lot within that structure of those main shapes. And if you'd like to learn more about urban sketching, I recommend you check out my Patreon because I've got the full version here without any cuts. We've got the files that go with it, so the reference and some templates. I've also got another whole heap of fundamental tutorials which are really helpful for beginners, and you can post your sketch on the community chat with everybody else, and they're very friendly and warm community there, and you can also ask me any questions. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.